The Chambord Chateau. This is a palace that was built in the heart of the Guedelon marshlands. King Francis I had ordered its construction, but he never completed it. The chateau is not designed as a permanent residence, and Francis only stays here for a couple of weeks. It was used more as a status symbol to impress other people. The double helix staircases were inspired by Leonardo da Vinci, as was some of the outside structures. It was completed by Louis XIV. Several times the Sun King had hunting parties and other festivities here. During the 18th century, work was finally undertaken to outfit the interior. Chambord was relatively spared from the ravages of the French Revolution. While the chateau was ransacked and much of the furniture sold off, the monument itself escaped the destruction. But then it was just totally ignored until 1809, when Napoleon gave it to one of his generals as a reward for his service. But he evidently wasn't too interested in keeping it. The general's widow sells it off, and eventually the entire estate of Chambord is offered through a nationwide fundraising campaign to the Duke of Bordeaux, who's the grandson of King Charles X, but politics ruled against him, and he never really got to enjoy it. But he still retained ownership, having someone run the chateau and then open it to the public and start renovations. Following the Duke's death in 1883, the estate was inherited by his nephews, the princes of the Bourbon-Parma family. Since 1930, the chateau and its park have been state property. Further issues became evident in World War I because the Bourbon-Parma families were Austrian princes. So in 1915, the French state put the chateau into receivership. By 1930, new owners decided to make the monument resemble as closely as possible its Renaissance ancestors by demolishing sections of the chateau. Now management is then assigned to several different public offices and ministries, each one having authority over a section of the estate. But in 2005, a single management unit was set up to run the property. Much more efficient. The Chateau de Guedelon. I know that's wrong, but this is a brand new, old 13th century castle. Construction started in 1997 by the owner of another castle in France. The site was chosen according to the availability of construction materials, an abandoned stone quarry, and a large forest with a nearby pond. The making of a chateau utilizing only medieval methods and tools. However, they still had to file modern permits and get a lot of modern inspections by historians. This is up the chimney. They even do all of their own quarrying, carpentry, and mason work. All their own stonework from sledgehammer to chiseling. Since we were there in 2014, it must be way further along by now, if not even finished. This is an indoor potty. How modern. Now this is a vacation. This is the town of Fougeres, and This is an interesting little town in Normandy. The town and fortress was of great military importance, even all the way back to medieval times. And I wasn't expecting a military town, so everything we got to see in here was a big surprise. It's a very hilly walk to the central area. The castle, built between the 12th and 15th century, is in the frontier between France and Brittany, and it was completely destroyed in 1166 by King Henry II of England, but was immediately rebuilt. This area changed hands a number of times during the ensuing centuries, but even with all the destruction, much of the castle remains, including the wall's 13 towers. Victor Hugo, Gustave Flaubert, and several other 19th century French writers lived here for a time, and it was frequently mentioned in many of the literature of that time. The town has a picturesque old houses and two churches dating from the 15th to the 17th century. The area has been inhabited since Neolithic times, and there are megalithic monuments in the area. The creation of the town itself dates back to the Middle Ages, and the chateau was first mentioned around the end of the 10th century. At that time, though, it was just a simple wooden fortification located on the rocky ridge. Built in the 11th century, the first fortification was taken and destroyed by Henry II of England in 1166. But then a bigger and better fortress was built, and it became a stronghold defending the borders of Brittany. Jean-Ambrose Bastogne, and there's other parts to his name which I won't even begin to try to pronounce. He fought in the French Revolutionary Wars and the Napoleonic Wars, and he died in fatigue in Königsberg in East Prussia in 1812 because he was part of the Grand Army's retreat from Moscow. 640 names are engraved in a monument to commemorate the deaths of soldiers from the town that fought for France during World War I. The 20th century was marked by the British and American bombings in 1944 during Operation Overlord, which killed 300 people and injured twice as many, and destroyed most of the public and industrial facilities. There was a surprisingly lot to see here.